Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another episode of our History SO1. Today's Wednesday, March 20th, 2019, and this is episode number 2. And we're back to continuing to read the Constitution, and this is going to be about Article VII and the Signatories. Okay, let's get started here. So the guy you see there is James Madison, and he ended up being the 4th president. But he was a delegate from Virginia to the Constitutional Convention. So he was one of the framers of the Constitution. And after the Constitution was written, he actually wrote a lot of essays about why they should adopt the Constitution. They call them the Federalist Papers. He and Alexander Hamilton and John Jay wrote those things. But anyway, let's just take a look here at the Constitution again. There's the Constitution. What we're going to do is, remember, we're trying to break this thing down and look at it section by section. And what I'm going to do is, so I got 4 pages of Constitution here. And you can see Article 1, looks like it goes on for almost all of the first page. Here's the second page. And Article 1 continues on to almost the bottom of the second page. So that's a really long article. A lot in there. We'll probably put that off to later. Article 2 is starts at the bottom of the second page. And here it is, continuing on. It's also pretty long. Article 3 looks like it's several paragraphs. There's Article 4 at the bottom. And there's Article 5 and Article 6 and Article 7. If you see Article 7, it looks pretty small. Even though it's the last article, it's only 1 sentence long. So I think it might be a good idea to maybe start there. And I'll just go back to this, page here. Remember, I broke the Constitution down to 10 parts, and I'm going to do one at a time. So we're going to do the 8th part there, the ratification, Article 7. So let's just take a look at that page. Here's this page one more time. I'll show it to you here. You can see it down there, Article 7. And I've actually zoomed in on it here, enlarged that. And you see Article 7. And you see it's written in script. It says the ratification of the Convention of 9 United States. Well, it's kind of hard to read, so I actually have it typed out here. And let me just show you where it says here. Article 7. The ratification of the conventions of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states, so ratifying the same. So it's only 1 sentence. So that's pretty easy to understand what he meant by that. If you recall, there were 13 states at the time. So they're saying that it only takes 9 states, which was 9 out of 13. That's a little more than 2/3, not quite 3/4. So if you have a little more than 2/3, then it's enough to establish the Constitution, at least between the states that ratified it. And I will also mention that ratification meant they had to actually send the Constitution back to every state, and every state was required to convene a state convention specifically to review and discuss and debate and ratify the Constitution if they so chose. So anyway, that's pretty much all there is to say about that. Remember, when this Constitution was written, and I'll go back to this page here, they wrote the thing, someone wrote it, and then it was signed by all these people. These are the people that were the framers of the Constitution. And they ended up signing it, put it into effect. It had to actually be ratified by the states. And it took a while, like about a year or something, for that to happen. So, but anyway, the second thing I'm going to look at here, if I go back to this outline here of the Constitution, the 9th item is the Signatories. And this has a statement, and it's dated, and who signed it, and it's attested by the Secretary. So let's look at that again here. You can see right on the right-hand side, below Article 7, there's a statement there, and it says the word done is in fancy script. But it says, done in convention of the unanimous consent of the states present the 17th day of September. And I'll just show that here. And here's where it's actually written here. And all the people signed it. So it says, done in convention by the unanimous consent of the states present the 17th day of September in the year of our Lord, 1787, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 12th. That means the 12th year. And witness whereof, we have hereunto subscribed our names. And everybody signed it. And you can see if I go back to the actual original document, you can see there's signers from on the left-hand or right of center. There's Delaware, several people signed it, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. Then in the right-hand column, at the very first signature there was George Washington, and then New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And I just tallied up the number of people who signed it. It turns out a total of 40 persons from 12 states signed it. And I put down the number. They could see that, for instance, Delaware had 5, Maryland had 3, New Hampshire had 2, Massachusetts had 2. And you notice, so it's 40 people from 12 states. And well, it's actually 13 states. So what happened to the 13th state? Well, that would be Rhode Island. You notice Rhode Island is not on that list. Rhode Island did not send anybody to the Constitutional Convention. So there was no one there. They didn't have any input into the Constitution. And that was their choice. They were kind of boycotting it. But anyway, if you look at if you count up the numbers here, if you tally up all these numbers, you'll see that there's actually 39 names here. And yet there's 40 people signed this. So I just go back to the original document here. And if you look on the left-hand side, right underneath Article VII, you see this paragraph there. And then underneath the sign, it says, attest William Jackson, Secretary. So I'm just going to zoom in on that here, and we'll see what that's all about. So you can see there's a paragraph with a signature underneath it. And the paragraph reads, the word "the" being interlined between the 7th and 8th lines of the first page. And let's see what that means there. The first page, the 7th and 8th lines. So I've got here is a close-up of the Constitution. And if you count down from the top line there, "We the people" being the top line, and include the line, the Article I, that's one of the lines. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you see in the 8th line there, and I'm just going to zoom in on that there. See the 8th line, it says, well, the 7th line is Section 2, the House of Representatives. The 8th line says, in each state shall have the qualifications. And you see that it has the word "the" has been inserted. So there's a little caret, and then the word "the" is written in interline, they call it. And see what happens was when they wrote this thing out, it's written out longhand in pen. In fact, here's a picture of a quill pen. So someone had to go and sharpen this pen up with a penknife. It's goose feather or something. And they dipped the pen in ink and then wrote the Constitution. Well, clearly, there's going to be some errors when you write stuff, right? And hopefully the guy's very careful, but even even being careful, you're going to occasionally leave out a word, and it'll have to be inserted afterwards. So that's what you see there. The word "the" is inserted. So let's just go back and look at some more of this attestation. And in fact, I'm going to show where I actually printed it out here. The word 30 being partly written on an erasure of the 15th line of the first page. So there's another mistake, and I'll show you that here. Here's the 15th line, and I've zoomed in on that here. If you count from the top here, the first line says representatives, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see on the very left it says 30, but you see it's like kind of smudged out, like somebody erased it and then wrote in the word 30. So I'm guessing when he wrote it, he might have written like a different word, like 40,000 or 50,000, probably like 40,000 instead of 30,000. Then he had to go correct it. So that was the correction there that was made. And then there's another one here. It said the word "is tried" being interlined between the 32nd and 33rd lines of the first page. So let's take a look at that. Here's the first page, the 33rd line of the first page. And this is actually it here. And you can see the word "is." It's the second line in this picture here where I've enlarged it. It says the Senate shall have, and the second line says of the United States is tried, the chief. So you see the word "is tried" has been inserted, the two words. So this is what they do. And there was one more error. It says the word "the" being interlined between the 43rd and 44th lines of the second page. Now, I'm not going to show you this because I looked for this and I went cross-eyed trying to find this, and I could not find the word "the" interlined there. So, but anyway, that's what he says. Now, the reason for this is the secretary is a guy who takes down all the notes, and he actually wrote the document out, right, longhand. And again, there's going to be some mistakes. So how do you fix the mistakes? Well, one thing you do is just rewrite the document correctly, right? But then what happens is when you rewrite the document the second time, you might have some different mistakes in it. So the easiest thing to do is just to go and insert the words that are missing. And, I said a good secretary will make very few mistakes, so there'll be very few changes are made. And I believe there's something like 8,000 words in the Constitution. So anyway, that's basically all I'm going to do today. I'll go back to this breakdown here. So we've covered now the 8th and 9th things on my list here: Article VII, Ratification, and Article 9, Signatories. And that's it.